Italy's contribution to progressive rock has often been overshadowed by the British giants. Yet, during the 1970s and beyond, Italy produced some of the most original, lush and ambitious prog rock the world has ever seen. Now today, I dive into 8 more key bands that shaped this vibrant scene and the impact they had both at home and abroad. First up this time we have Le Orme, meaning the footprints, fittingly starting their journey in the romantic and watery city of Venice in 1966. Initially trying out the popular beat and psychedelic sounds of the time, they possessed an inherent artistic curiosity that would lead them down a more detailed and ambitious path. Their musical development reached its peak with landmark albums such as Uomo du Pezzo, which translates to Ragdoll, and the universally praised Filona e Serona. These records revealed a distinctive and captivating sound, immediately recognisable for its breathtaking, expansive mellotron backdrops, the delicate yet detailed interaction of synthesizers, and the soaring, often sad quality of their Italian vocals. Filona e Serona, released in the important year of 1973 for Prog, remains their undisputed greatest achievement, a profound and emotionally rich concept album. Through its evocative melodies and lyrical imagery, it paints quite a vivid picture of 2 heavenly bodies, one filled with constant joy and light, the other covered in sorrow and darkness. This symbolic tale serves as a powerful representation of the basic dualities present in the human condition, themes that connected deeply with the progressive rock ideal. Now, recognising the potential for wider reach, the band undertook a significant collaboration with the esteemed Peter Hamel of Van der Graaf Generator fame. Now, together, they carefully crafted an English-language version of Filona e Serona, specifically aimed at the discerning UK market. Now, when their music finally reached the British shores, critics, writing for influential publications such as Melody Maker and Sounds, were quick to acknowledge and praise Le Orme's exceptional musicianship. Comparisons were naturally drawn to the symphonic grandeur of Emerson, Lake and Palmer, and highlighting their technical skill and compositional ambition. However, some of the critical voices gently noted the inherent difficulty in really fully translating the nuanced emotional intensity of the Italian lyrics and the vocal delivery for an English-speaking audience. But regardless of these linguistic details, Le Orme clearly proved to their British counterparts, and indeed to the wider planet, that Italy possessed a progressive rock scene capable of producing music as sophisticated, technically impressive, and artistically important as anything coming from the shores of Britain. Now, coming from a different part of the Italian progressive scene, Museo Rosenbach presented a stark and powerful musical identity, one that was often filled with a clear sense of political urgency. Their music masterfully joined the raw aggression and driving energy of hard rock with the detailed structures and intellectual depth of progressive composition. Their only major album, the formidable Zarathustra, released in 1973, remains a dense and challenging work, deeply inspired by the philosophical writings of Friedrich Nietzsche. This musical creation is rich with dark and brooding organ sounds, a relentlessly growling bass that holds together the complex arrangements and intensely philosophical Italian lyrics. These dealt with the profound questions about existence. Within Italy itself, Zarathustra caused a degree of disagreement, largely due to the interpretations of its artwork and lyrical content, as potentially having right-wing imagery. This unfortunate perception undoubtedly limited their mainstream success within their own country. Now, across the English Channel in the United Kingdom, Museo Rosenbach went largely unnoticed by the music press at the time and the wider listening public in general. However, though, as the decades have passed and the appreciation for progressive rock deepened, and broadened, critics and dedicated fans have begun to rediscover and praise Zarathustra as a towering and essential work of European progressive music. It was increasingly recognised for its dramatic power, its unwavering intensity, and its real sheer musical ambition. Indeed, Prog magazine would later eloquently describe it as a searing, relentless trip into the heart of questions about existence and sound. Musée Rosenbach's lasting influence lies in their bold demonstration of how progressive rock could effectively tackle heavier, more intellectual subject matter without really ever losing musical beauty or compositional innovation. Now, if L'Orme could be considered Italy's answer to the bombastic grandeur of ELP, then Banco del Mutuo Soccorso, often referred to as Banco, thankfully, were undoubtedly Italy's equivalent to the theatrical and lyrical-rich planet of Genesis, seamlessly joining classical grandeur with a potent rock energy, with a distinctly Italian style. Led by the exceptionally talented Nocenzi brothers, Vittorio and Gianni, on keyboards, and the uniquely expressive vocalist Francesco Di Giacomo, Banco quickly established themselves as a singular force. Their signature sound was characterized by a breathtaking joining of intricately arranged keyboard-driven compositions, often displaying a remarkable classical influence, interwoven with powerful and operatic delivery of Di Giacomo's Italian vocals. Their early albums, the self-titled Banco del Mutuo Soccorso and The Ambition Darwin, both released in the productive year of 1972 for the band, showed that they were capable of operating on a truly massive scale of ambition. Darwin in particular stands as a monumental conceptual trip, exploring the themes of evolution and the complexities of the human spirit, really through a series of connected musical movements. In the mid-1970s, a significant moment arrived when Banco signed with Manticore Records, that prestigious record label founded and owned by none other than Emerson, Lake and Palmer. Now, under this banner, they released English-language versions of their most important works in an earnest attempt to reach a wider UK audience. Now, while British critics generally acknowledged and praised their undeniable musical skill, with NME describing them as a dazzling if occasionally overwhelming idea, the change to English lyrics proved to be a somewhat challenging effort. Often the translated lyrics lacked the poetic nuance and natural flow of the original Italian, occasionally feeling quite awkward or less impactful when compared to the soaring beauty of the Italian counterparts. Despite this linguistic difficulty, though, Banco's profound influence as highly skilled instrumentalists and as symphonic innovators within the progressive rock scene really remains unchallenged. Their detailed compositions and theatrical performances left a lasting mark on the genre. Bella Band appeared slightly later in the timeline of classic Italian progressive rock, releasing their sole self-titled album in 1978. By this time, the music scene was beginning to change, and Bella Band's sound reflected this evolution. Moving away from the more obviously theatrical and symphonic approaches of their predecessors, Bella Band leaned towards a sophisticated and engaging, real jazz fusion sound. Whilst perhaps less obviously dramatic than some of their early Italian prog giants, their music remained firmly based in melodic sophistication and intricate, changing rhythmic patterns. The tracks on Bella Band gracefully weave together breezy and expressive saxophone lines with intricate guitar-driven progressions. This suggesting the sophisticated improvisational structures pioneered by bands like, for example, Weather Report. There was a clear sense of musicality and a leaning towards instrumental interaction. Now, in the United Kingdom, their album unfortunately barely made an impression, arriving during a time largely dominated by the raw energy of punk rock and the growing sounds of the new wave. Bella Band's more nuanced and jazz-influenced approach really struggled to find a significant audience. However, in the years that followed, dedicated prog collectors and later critical re-evaluations have recognised Bella Band's important role in connecting the stylistic gap between the classical Italian progressive sound and the growing jazz fusion scene. They represent a fascinating example of how progressive ideas of musical exploration and instrumental ability could adapt and evolve even as mainstream musical tastes underwent somewhat significant transformations. Sensations Fix, led by the visionary guitarist and composer Franco Falsini, created a truly individual and distinctive voice within the diverse collection of Italian progressive music. Avoiding the more traditional symphonic paths favoured by many of their contemporaries, Sensations Fixed ventured into the more experimental areas of electronic and ambient textures. Their early to mid-1970s albums, including the seminal Portable Madness and Fragments of Light, showed a fascinating and forward-thinking joining of krautrock influences. One might hear echoes of early Kraftwerk's rhythmic experimentation and Tangerine Dream's cosmic soundscapes. These were all interwoven with a distinctly lush and often sad Italian lyricism. In the UK, Sensations Fix, with their more avant-garde approach, naturally attracted the attention of the more adventurous and open-minded critics. Notably, the Wire magazine, a publication known for its exploration of unconventional and experimental music, would later highlight them as the key Italian link between the stark electronic music of the Berlin School and the warmer, more melodic flows of cosmic rock. Remarkably, Sensations Fix predicted musical styles such as ambient, the hazy sounds of shoegaze, and even aspects of retro-futuristic sound of synthwave, decades before those styles really gained widespread popularity. Their innovative approach serves as a powerful demonstration of the inherent adaptability and forward-thinking spirit within the broader progressive music movement, extending far beyond the limits of symphonic transitions. Moving forward several decades, Black Elephant appears as a compelling representative of the modern evolution of the Italian progressive idea, albeit seen through the heavy fuzz-drenched viewpoint of psychedelic and stoner rock. They demonstrate that the progressive spirit remains alive and well in Italy, even though it's taking on a new and exciting forms. Their 2020 album, the powerfully titled Seven Swords, delivered a musical attack of thunderous, heavily fudged riffing, expansive instrumental jams that allowed for considerable musical exploration and dynamic shifts in mood and tempo that clearly recall the adventurous nature of 1970s progressive rock, all while being firmly based in the heavy grooves of Black Sabbath and the sun-baked sounds of desert rock. The UK underground press, particularly influential online publications such as The Sleeping Shaman and Doomed and Stoned UK, enthusiastically praised Black Elephant's ability to use old energy without ever sounding old-fashioned or simply copying. They showed how Italian musicians continue to creatively reinvent and build upon their rich progressive history, demonstrating its lasting energy well into the 21st century. U Trolls hold a significant place in the history of Italian progressive rock as one of the very first bands to clearly and deliberately join the power and energy of rock music with the sophisticated structures and instrumentation of classical music. Their groundbreaking 1971 work, Concerto Grosso per I, U Trolls was a truly ambitious undertaking, composed together with the esteemed Italian film composer Louis Bacalov. This innovative album seamlessly combined full orchestral suites, complete with soaring strings and brass arrangements, with powerful hard rock interludes. These featuring driving rhythms and electric guitars, creating really quite a genuine and compelling baroque rock joining. Now, when Concerto Grosso reached British shores, critics found it to be fascinating and undeniably ambitious, though perhaps somewhat niche in its appeal. Melody Maker praised the album's bold theatrical style and audacious combination of genres. However, some more traditional rock critics were really less than enthusiastic about its overt high art aims, perhaps finding the classical elements somewhat at odds with the expectations of rock music. But despite these differing critical perspectives, Neutral's pioneering ability to seamlessly weave together pure classical feelings and the raw energy of rock dynamics proved to be highly influential. This innovative approach resonated with countless later bands across Europe and Japan, firmly establishing classical fusion as a legitimate and respected branch within the broader progressive rock scene. Quel vecchia locanda, meaning that old inn, made some of the most poetically beautiful and emotionally rich music within the Italian prog rock collection. Their sound was characterized by a delicate touch and a profound sense, really, of melodic grace. They had two exquisite albums, the self-titled one released in 1972 and Il Tempo della Gioia, The Time of the Joy, from 1974. Paint dreamy and peaceful musical pictures through the skillful interaction of lost violin melodies, intricate acoustic guitar work, delicate piano passages, and the gentle, heartfelt quality of their Italian vocals. And whilst perhaps not as obviously technically skilled or bombastic theatrical as bands like Banco or Museo Rosenbach, Quel vecchia locanda's subtle and nuanced approach possessed a deep and lasting emotional impact on those who found their music. At the time of their original releases, Quel vecchia locanda remained relatively little known outside of their native Italy. However, in more recent times, modern UK reviews, particularly in specialist magazines such as Shindig, have rightly praised QVL for their genuine romanticism, beautifully combined with progressive ideas. Today, they are increasingly regarded as a real true hidden treasure of the genre. Their music offering an emotionally rich and artistically refined listening experience that continues to captivate those who seek out the more subtle and introspective corners of progressive rock. The remarkable Italian progressive rock boom of the 1970s, while perhaps relatively short in its most intense period, left behind a legacy of lasting brilliance, incredible stylistic variety, and profound emotional power. For the heavenly and expansive musical backdrops created by L'Orme to the operatic grandeur of Banco del Mutuo Soccorso, the cosmic trips of Sensations Fix, and the modern, riff-driven psychedelia of Black Elephant, these Italian artists have consistently demonstrated that the spirit of progressive rock knows no geographical borders or linguistic limits. Though initial reception from UK critics at the time may have been somewhat hesitant or incomplete, history has thankfully offered a more balanced and appreciative perspective, revealing a musical movement of astonishing richness, profound artistry, and real, undeniable global importance. The echoes of these innovative sounds continue to resonate, inspiring new generations of musicians and captivating listeners with their timeless beauty and boundless creativity. Now, as I said, there was an earlier video I shot of Prog from Italy where I covered in detail 7 other bands. Now, that's the video that I want you to watch next, and I'll see you over there.